was never in an explosion. It's a horrible feeling. You'll never forget it.
It's an honor to be the chairman of the U.S. Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board. Our mission is nothing less than to save the lives of workers and the public and to protect the environment from chemical accidents.
Tonight, fire officials say they still don't know what sparked the fire, but federal investigators are now on the way.
Really, you're trying to just get, initially, just the lay of the land. Where can you go, where you can't go, what the hazards are for the people, for ourselves, and for anybody else that we're working with. You can see there's still some spots burning out there farther away, so I think we're okay where we're standing here. But this used to be a warehouse here. You can see the devastation.
Congress created the U.S. Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board following a chemical plant disaster that killed thousands in Bhopal, India in 1984, and after a series of chemical accidents in this country in the 1980s and 90s.
Well, the Chemical Safety Board is a relatively new agency. It began in early 1998, but it's already established a reputation for strong, credible, thorough, expert investigations. And my goal is to build on that, to see that that continues and to get even better.
I look upon our mission as basically one of prevention. We find out what happened, what caused the accident, and then we make recommendations that we would hope would prevent further similar accidents like that from happening in the future.
Thank you, staff, for the presentation and for your work on this. And
the CSB is governed by 5 board members, each appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. They serve 5-year terms.
Congress modeled us after the National Transportation Safety Board. We're independent of all other government agencies. We're not a regulatory agency, and we don't issue fines or penalties. What we do is investigate chemical accidents, determine root causes, and issue formal safety recommendations to companies and other organizations.
Board members deploy with the CSB's professional investigation staff to the scene of accidents that meet certain criteria, such as loss of life or the release of toxic substances that threaten nearby communities.
63 people were treated at local hospitals, and hundreds had to leave their homes temporarily.
Following their initial deployment in the field, investigators conduct interviews, examine documents, and oversee critical tests.
One of the first things that we do is to interview all of the witnesses who are on the scene at the time of the accident. And this is a very difficult task, but a very important one, because they provide information that's indispensable to our investigation.
There's no way to divorce yourself from the people. And there's a certain expectation that they have of us when we arrive on scene to help them to understand what happened.
They only looked at the personnel exposure issues.
At CSB headquarters in Washington, D.C., team members meet regularly to analyze the evidence, develop theories, and ultimately come to conclusions about what happened.
And we keep each other in check. And it creates healthy debate, strenuous at times, and rigorous at times, painful on occasion. But that debate gives this product a higher degree of quality.
I see it like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle. When you first get the puzzle, you've got a lot of pieces that don't make any sense. One of the things the investigation does is begin to pick up those pieces, and it begins to put them into place until you begin to see a picture emerge of what might have happened here.
My philosophy of investigations is that it is rarely the act of an individual that causes a deadly chemical disaster. Almost always, there are multiple causes that are found in safety system deficiencies.
Unfortunately, the operator died as a result of his exposure.
Often, midway through an investigation, the board convenes a community meeting near the accident site.
We'll give them a presentation and tell them, here's what we found so far, here's what we think we know about what happened. And then we'll say to them, tell us what your concerns are, tell us, is there anything that you'd need to tell us about what you know about the incident?
I can remember when the fireball hit. I can remember being blown through the air. I can remember the fire. I remember the pain.
David J. Hamilton, Jimmy D. Lemmings.
Testimony at the community meetings may come from accident victims and their families, company representatives, emergency responders, and local officials.
This evening, and I'm very interested in hearing what has to be said, so thank you all for being here.
When we came back for the public meeting, we presented our preliminary findings, which lent themselves to a dust explosion, and then we demonstrated with some actual material that we found in the facility.
3, 2, 1, fire.
There was an audible gasp. There were tears, but I think that it helped them to get some sense of closure to the event.
My father, Milton Murrow, was killed in the accident, and I just have like one question. Were the employees made aware of how flammable the polyethylene was, and was there any like warning for them to know how flammable this material was?
The interviews indicated that the employees were not familiar with the properties of this material.
Okay, thank you.
Feedback that I get from people that are affected by these events lets me know that I am on the right path, that the mission that we are charged with here is important, it is affecting lives, and it is making a difference.
A CSB investigation can take a year or more to complete. The final draft report will include a thorough description of the accident, key findings, an analysis of root causes, and safety recommendations to prevent future accidents. At the end of the process, the board generally convenes a public meeting, at which time investigators present their report.
On July 17th, Jeffrey Davis was killed when tank 393, a spent sulfuric acid storage tank, failed as the result of an explosion.
The board also welcomes comment from members of the public, local officials, and elected representatives.
Finally, I'd like to thank the Chemical Safety Board for coming to Delaware today to share their recommendations and findings with all of us.
Your work is extremely important. I believe it's going to become more and more critical. I believe your workload is going to increase, not diminish.
Board members discuss the investigators' conclusions and vote on the report and any proposed changes.
Are there any other comments? Then I'd like to call for a vote.
The key to accident prevention lies in the agency's efforts to get safety recommendations adopted by companies, labor groups, trade associations, and sometimes other agencies like the EPA, OSHA, and state and local governments.
Federal investigators from the U.S. Chemical Safety Board in a final report will call for New York City to revise its fire prevention codes that date back from 1918.
A CSB investigation found that a large explosion in a mixed-use building in Manhattan in 2002 occurred when workers mixed hazardous chemicals in a waste barrel. The CSB found New York's antiquated fire code did not adequately regulate the handling of such chemicals. Now it will.
The explosion happened after a large quantity of molten plastic was dumped into a containment vessel all at once.
Earlier, a 2-year CSB study identified the hidden dangers from what are called reactive chemical hazards, leading the CSB to recommend regulatory changes at the EPA and OSHA. This has led to increased safety awareness about such hazards throughout industry.
People come up to me often from industry and tell me about how they've used our investigations. I find that very rewarding, and it's very important to the agency when we get information like that we have effected a change and prevented possibility of other accidents from happening.
The link to the full report is on the front page of the Chemical Safety Board's homepage.
The CSB website, csb.gov, provides many tools to improve the safety of industrial plants that handle chemicals. All investigation reports, plain language investigation digests, safety alerts, safety bulletins, and case studies are all available online, along with video material and breaking news about chemical accidents. It's all in support of the mission of the CSB, to save the lives of workers and the public, and to protect the environment by preventing chemical accidents.
It's very rewarding because we're helping to save lives.
And more than anything, my interest is in seeing everyone go home from work at the end of a shift.
I think the most satisfying thing about the job is being able to make a difference in the safety of the industry.
I believe we have a very important mission, And when we know that we're making change in the chemical industry to provide a safer environment, that's the most satisfying thing of all.